All right, welcome to It's Possible podcast. Today we have with us Akiyaa, amazing person who can do amazing things. I will let her introduce herself because she has so much to share with you. She's worked with companies, with CEOs, helping them resolve their problems. But I'll let her tell you more about what she does, and then we'll get it going from here. Hello, Akiyaa. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon, should I say? Wilkin, I'm happy to be here with It's Possible podcast, and I'm looking forward to this. My name's Akiyaa Azula, and I help people find, fulfill, and monetize their purpose with a system called creation. I've been doing this now for over 15 years, this particular technique or system. And we've just had some amazing transformative results in people's lives in many areas, whether it's their money, their relationship, their job, their career, their health, you name it. We've been able to see tremendous results with this system. So that's what we're here to talk to you today about.
Wow. Okay. So, who are your major clients? Not the names, but the category of people you work with.
As a matter of fact, I work with everybody.
Okay.
There isn't a certain person that I could say, like a lot of times in business, they tell you find your avatar, find your demographics. But with this work, it's universal. It works with everybody. I've worked with everybody from every walk of life,
Okay.
young, old, even animals.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now, you say you help people with their relationship, money, and all that. How do you do that?
I do it with a system called creation. I may have to back up a little bit. I started out as an acupuncturist. About 85% of my clientele was getting really good results. It's the 15% that weren't getting the results that really bothered me. So to heal that 15%, I started to look at other methods of healing. So it first started out with me looking at mind-body healing, seeing the relationship between their mind and their body and how that impacted their health. So I started doing a lot of techniques around that with them. And then the next thing I noticed was that I was able to tap into them intuitively while I was doing that mind-body work with them.
Okay.
And my intuition kicked in, and I started to actually experience where I could my daughter calls me, you're like an organ whisperer. Like their liver will start telling me, this is why they're having this issue. And the reason why this was such a valuable thing was that a lot of times people don't know why they're having the problem or what's actually wrong with them. They've gone to all kind of specialists, all types of doctors, spent a ton load of money, and they still have the same problem. So I gained a reputation in Orlando, Florida, that if you couldn't figure out what was wrong with your patient, send them to Akiyaa. So I became the last resort clinic. And what I found was by taking this approach to their healing was very valuable because it pinpointed exactly what was happening with them. And once you get it exact like that, you could find out exactly how to heal.
So you say you can hear. That's amazing. You can speak with the organs of somebody's body.
Well, I'm not really speaking with their organs.
Okay.
I'm working with them. And then you just tune in, like you get a sense. Like sometimes you're around someone and you get a sense of that person, right? It's nonverbal. There's a lot of nonverbal cues we get from different people. And people don't even have to say anything. You could just feel like, this doesn't feel right. Or somebody's offering you a business deal.
Okay.
Something inside if you go, I don't know about that. It may sound great. And there's a part of you but there's a part of you that go, let me hold back.
Yeah.
So when I say intuition, we all have it. I'm not someone that's special that don't have it. The difference between me and the average person is that I utilize mine. So I have developed it like you go to the gym, you work your muscles, you'll get stronger if you're consistent with it. So over the years, over the last 40 years of working with patients, the last 25, I've been using my intuition in order to help people heal and resolve different issues in their life, whether it's their health, their money, their relationship, you name it. I've helped with that. So it's just gotten stronger because I've been using all the time.
Yeah, but when okay, I understand you do
Acupuncture.
acupuncture. All right, you do that. This is science, right? It has to do with science. You study for that, and
Yes.
you can do it. Now, helping people with their money, this is the part of it that I still cannot understand, because how would you help somebody to say, now I'm broke now, how can you help me with some money?
Yeah. So it's not so much that when I'm looking at money, it's not so much that it's a money issue, like the actual dollars and cents issue.
Okay.
It has more to do with how the person feels about themselves, what they feel that they're worthy of, how much they allow themselves to have. That's normally the issues with money. And a lot of the things that we have about money are things that we are actually taught about money. You know, like, how did your family handle money? How did your mom and dad handle money? What did you learn about money? What does the media tell you about money? So people filter all of these things in about money, and then they make their decision, their monetary decisions based on all of these various things.
Okay.
So what I have found with money, it has very little to do with the physical money itself. It has more to do with how the person perceives themselves and that relationship they have to money. So if someone has a block, like I had a gentleman that I worked with, I met his wife at a conference, and I called them my brilliant but broke couple, because I don't use people's names when I talk about them in this light. And he was absolutely brilliant. He was one of the first tech people, like IT people, when the tech industry was first invented. They lived in Silicon Valley, and he was brilliant. They lived in a mansion, 4 luxury cars, and when the tech bubble burst, they lost all of that overnight. Within 2 weeks, they were living out of their car. They had to go and live in a trap house so they could take a shower. And the wife's husband, her dad had a house that they rented out to college students. So they had a loft there, and they lived in this loft while they rented out the downstairs to college students.
Okay.
And they lived like that. I met them in 2015. So that was over a 15-year span that they were always struggling with the money, this couple. And you're wondering, he's so brilliant. Why don't he just get another tech job?
Yeah.
But what I found out by doing this work called creation with him, I found out that he felt emasculated. He felt shame for having lost this fortune that they have, and he just never recovered from it. So once we found out that's what was blocking him from his receiving of money or even making money, once we cleared up that pattern that he had, he was making money left and right. He had so much work. He said, Akiyaa, it's like you've opened up the floodgates of opportunity. He was freelancing. He was getting work left and right.
So money was coming from everywhere.
Money was once we removed that block, because there was nothing inherently wrong with him. He just had this block that he couldn't get over.
And you removed the block.
We removed that block, that energy, the thing that's binding all of that together for him. You know, I feel less of a man. I can't provide for my family. I can't, and he didn't know he was thinking these things. That's why I said I use intuition to pinpoint exactly what's going on with that person. I feel ashamed I have to live in my father-in-law's house, like we're still living in the dorm because we're renting it out to college kids. So he had all of this that was happening inside of himself that he wasn't even aware of. So it's the stuff that people aren't aware of that remains hidden that I actually go in and find with creation.
So this is, because when you said that, as we were talking, I was thinking about, I was born and raised in Haiti, right? I've seen in Haiti, you either be Christian or you are on the other side, where the voodoo thing and all that. I've seen people coming from everywhere to come see a voodoo priest or somebody like this because they wanted to have money or things like this. So what you do, does it have anything to do with a crystal ball, cutting chicken head and things like that?
I'm glad you asked that question. That's a really, really good question. I run a medical practice, so it has to remain sterile at all times.
Okay.
So there's no sacrificing of
Okay.
anything.
No ritual,
no ritual
ceremony.
being done. Nothing's being shaken over you. No smoke. None
Okay.
of that stuff is being done. Now I know there are traditional religions where that is part of a religious practice and custom.
Yeah.
And I don't knock anybody's religion. I'm just not judgmental as far as where people are comfortable in their religion. So
Okay.
I don't judge anybody's religion as good or bad. I don't invoke or call any spirits either.
Okay.
I don't need to do that to do the work that I do. The thing is, based on the question that you ask, it's based on who is setting the narrative. That's what I always say. Because number one, for instance, if I go to a conference or a meeting and it's filled with Caucasian people and they're doing anything spiritual, they may say it's meditation or they may say they're channeling. If I go to, like say Haiti or somewhere, Africa somewhere, and people are, finding the spirit that way, they would say it's spiritual possession and it's bad. If you go to church, they'll say we caught the Holy Ghost. If you go read the Bible, especially the Old Testament, and they talk about the prophets and all of that having these type of experiences, even like Paul, all his experiences were spiritual. He saw things. He had visions. He fell off the horse. He was 3 days out of his mind. All of these things, they're spiritual, but they call that ecstasy. So based on who it's coming from, whether or not the narrative is set that it's something bad and derogatory or it's something good. So, but they're all doing the same thing.
So,
And it's the intention, but it's the intention that you use it for. It's like, okay, take money for instance. You could use money and do really great things with it, and you could use money and do really nefarious bad things with it too. So it's what you use it for and how you utilize it, because all the same, at the end of the day, it's all God. There's nothing else but God, and it's God's that's directing everything. And God isn't saying, I don't think God is making the judgment that, what you believe because it's a European thing and you believe that, so that's good, and everybody else is bad. Or you have this one religion, so if you're Hindu, you're good, but everybody else is bad. I don't believe
I
that's
understand that. But where I'm coming from is I've never met someone who say I can see things like not physical things. I've heard people preaching saying, "Oh, God told me this," or "God told me that." So my question is, do you hear a voice or do you see something on a virtual screen? How can you say that you see something like that other people cannot see?
Okay, so it's not that I am seeing. So the misconception that I see that happens. As an acupuncturist, I had to explain what I was doing to my patients. And I knew if I used the language of acupuncture about qi and energy and the flow of qi and all of that, the average person does not understand what the heck that even means.
Okay.
So one of the things that I did was that I found some books on scientific research where they would talk about you have this energy field, this electromagnetic energy field that surrounds your body. And the changes in that energy field could predict whether or not the person's going to get sick, whether they have a cold coming on, because there'll be disruptions and changes in the electromagnetic field that could be scientifically measured.
Okay.
Or someone has cancer, they'll see certain disruptions in that field before they physically get the ailment. So when I say soul and spirit, and even though they mean two different things, most people use them interchangeably, and that's why I'm saying soul or spirit. So most people have the conception that your soul or your spirit exists inside your body. It's actually the other way around. Your body exists inside of your soul and spirit, because your spirit, your soul is humongous. So think about when you walk into a room and you just opened the door, but you could feel this energy. You could cut it with a knife. Nobody said a word. They didn't answer any question, but you could feel this energy, like this energy doesn't feel good, or somebody's really angry. Well, how do you know? Because that energy that they give off that's around their body is giving off that energy. So people could sense it. So it's not that I'm specifically or specially intuitive. I've just paid more attention to mine than the average person. But we all sense all of these things. So when someone comes to me, am I seeing something? No, I'm not necessarily seeing something. It depends on how that person chooses to communicate. If I have a person that's very, very talkative, I would hear more because that's the way they spiritually communicate. And the same thing, even if you think about learning styles, people that are very auditory and like to talk a lot, they do good with lectures and audiobooks and stuff like that. Someone who's extremely a visual learner, they do better with reading and seeing pictures and things like that because that's how their mind works. Someone who's very tactile, they need to touch and hold and hold on to things and do things. They will communicate through feelings. So based on how that person's learning style and how they communicate, that's how I would receive the information. So I'm like a radio receiver. They're transmitting the information, but I'm actually just receiving the information that that person's given based on their communication style. So when I say I hear, I don't hear like a voice talking to me like, you know, like a voice coming out of the heavens. No, it doesn't work that way. It feels more like a thought going in my mind, something that I wasn't even thinking about before. All of a sudden I have all this information and thoughts happening in my head. For the first time I had this happen to me, I'm working on a patient. They have a physical ailment, and all of a sudden, their liver starts to talk to me. And their liver is spilling the tea as to, oh, this is what has happened to this person. It's really an issue with their sister, and you know they need to resolve this issue because it's been long standing. They're mad about this and that, and it's blocking the free flow of energy that the liver needs in order for it to remain healthy. So then I would hear, should I say that to the person? And I'll say it to them, and then they go like, oh, that makes so much sense now. And they get a release. So that's how it actually works. So it depends on how they communicate and what I'm able to receive from them.
Yeah. Well, I still do not understand like the liver of a person can talk to you. And then you can receive a message from somebody's
Well,
liver.
think about this. There are people that are animal communicators. Like take, for instance, George Washington Carver. We heard about him. He did all these wonderful things with soybeans and the peanut. He's very famous for the peanut. And what they said about George Washington Carver is every morning he would wake up at the crack of dawn, like right before the sun came up, and he'll walk through the forest. And they'd ask him what he'd do. And he said the plants talk to him. That's how he knew how to invent all these things, like 300 plus things out of a plant. How do you do that? That was how he used his intuition. He could communicate with the plants.
Okay.
So it's not something that's unusual. I just have looked for it and I could see it. And when I meet people, I could see, you know, like I meet people and I'm like, oh, you're very intuitive. The thing that gets me where we have this taboo around our intuition is because it's our power and our strength lies within bringing these gifts that we have within ourselves out. And so when I meet people, I feel really bad because I meet people that are naturally intuitive. Some people are like, from the time they're little children, they could see things. They could hear things. And what do we do with them? We tell them that they're wrong, or they're bad, or this is evil. And, you know, so the child is either very fearful now because that's their natural gift, or now this child, you know, thinks something is wrong with them all the time. Versus, like, say, if you were a singer, suppose you were like Cecilia Cruz or Patti LaBelle, they have these beautiful voices. What if we told them, don't sing at all? That's bad. That's not good to do. But that's their natural gift.
Okay, so it's a natural gift.
Yeah.
Did you have to go somewhere to have an imposition of hand or and be initiated to anything?
No. Like children that are born. Like take for instance, you know, like Mozart. What did he write songs when he was like 7, 8 years old? This little boy was writing symphonies, like you call a child prodigy.
Okay.
And when they asked Mozart and they said, well, how are you able to do that? And he said, I could hear the voices of angels singing.
Wow.
Like if you ever watch videos of Michael Jackson, he tells you, I don't sit at the piano and with a sheet of music and try to write. He said, I'm just along the highway and then I hear a beat. He said, first I ask a question. I would like something with some more drums or bass. He'll put the question out there. Then the next thing he'll say, I'm driving down the highway and then I start hearing this beat in my head. Then I go, and he didn't know how to write music or read music, but he'll go and sing all the instruments to his sound producer, and they'll write down the music for him.
Okay.
But
So,
it came to him. That was also intuition.
okay.
The only thing that with those types of intuition, whether it's music or someone who I invented this thing, and you always ask them and they said, well, how did you come up with this invention? It just came to me. How did you come up with this book? It just came to me. So that's also intuition. The only thing that makes mine scary to most people is that it's just finding out the truth about things. Mine is all about truth seeking.
Okay.
The truth is, if it's true, it works. So if someone has gone and seen umpteen doctors, all types of specialists, spent tens of thousands of dollars, and then they come to my office, and I could see intuitively what's going on with them because that's what's true. So it's going to work for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, I understand that. The only thing is that I've never. I am a coach, right? A life coach. I work with people. I ask them questions. They answer based on what they answer. I could find out kind of things that happened to them in the past. I may understand that this is what's blocking their way up to where they want to be or they want to go. But when you say that you intuitively maybe hear something or see something, I'm thinking about, is it some type of spirit communicating to you, or is it based on your experience or some type of imagination you have?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So the difference between imagination and intuition. Imagination, normally there's a different part of my brain would engage when I'm imagining something. When I am intuiting something, it comes in a different way. So for instance, if I'm thinking about something, I usually think from this part of my head, my frontal cortex. So that's, you start thinking about doing something, this part of your brain engages. When I'm listening to someone, this part of my brain engages, like my temporal lobe, right over my ear. That's what engages. If, for instance, someone is a very tactile person and they communicate because they feel and they do things, then what would happen? I will start feeling it. Like their heart is racing, or, all of a sudden I have a sharp pain in my stomach because that's how they communicate.
Wow.
So it depends on who is in front of me and how they choose to communicate. That, like I said, like a radio receiver, I'm receiving that information. So it's not imagination, like I would not want to imagine my stomach hurting.
Yeah.
Right, but I could
okay.
feel it. Then I know, oh, you have a problem with your stomach.
Okay.
So then they'll be like, oh, she knows I have a problem. I didn't tell her I had this problem with my stomach. How does she know I have a problem with my stomach? I could feel it because that's how they're conveying the information to me.
Does that
Or they can
happen
show
on
it
a
to me.
daily basis, or every time you see a client that happens to you?
No, because that would drive you crazy. I know some people who are like myself, who are very sensitive. And the fact that they have no way to regulate that level of sensitivity, it's very, very hard for them because they're feeling stuff all the time. They can't go anywhere. They walk into a room, they feel every aches and pains everybody has, which is not a good thing to have happen to you. I've always been like someone that said, because I met people like that.
Okay.
If I was to do this work intuitively and I had to experience those things, I was not going to do it. I was like, look,
Okay.
God, if this is what you want me to do, I'm not about being in pain all the time and having thoughts coming in my head all the time. I'm not going to have this overload. So
All right.
I have always been someone that always was able to switch it off. So I only utilize it when I am with someone that I'm working with. I'm in front of a client, I'm in front of a patient. That's when otherwise I have my normal life. Because otherwise that will drive you crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about. It's
All
like
that bombardment. Yeah.
somebody has a back pain and you feel it. Somebody has a headache and you feel it. That's like, come on.
Exactly. And I know people like that. That's the reason why I said I know some people, because they have not figured out what the boundaries are. So think about it this way. We are swimming in a sea of germs. There's germs, parasites, everything is all around us. The reason why we're not bombarded with it is because we have an immune system that could filter that out. All your immune system's doing all day long is saying, this is me, this is not me. And anything that's not me, your immune system will attack. It's the same way I feel that you have a spiritual immune system, that I know that this is me and Akiyah's energy, and this is not Akiyah's energy. So that's how when I start to become aware of something that's not part of Akiyaa, I know, oh, it's that other person that I'm working with. But I don't walk around all day trying to pick up on everything that's going on around me.
So tell me how you were as a child. Where were you born? Were you raised to see where that came from?
I was born in Jamaica. I came to New York City when I was about 6.5 years old. I grew up with a mom who was strict, which is, I think, probably all the Caribbean parents I know. They're hella strict. They're hella strict. Can't go nowhere. You can't do this. You can't. So I grew up like that. My mom was a person that she lived by her word. If she gave her word, she keeps it. She doesn't make any promise that she can't do. If you tell her you're going to do something, let's say you borrowed $100 from my mother, told her I'm going to pay you back next week, Friday at 3. Don't come at 3:01, 3:05. You already got a bad mark on you from doing that. And you don't pay her back, she's done. So she's that type of person. Yeah, she does not, encourage foolishness, as she would think of it. So she was just that person. For her, it was all about ethics and integrity. It was like growing up with a judge or something. It was like all about ethics and keep your word, say your word, keep your word. That's how I grew up with my mom. So as far as my spiritual knowledge and how that came about, my mother didn't let me go to church when I was a child. My grandmother in Jamaica, we went to church. My grandmother's always praying. She always got a hymn book. She's always singing, praying, reading the Bible. That's her life. When my friends would go to church, the boys will come back in shiny suits, the girls will be in frilly dresses, and I wanted to dress up and go to church with them. My mother would say no. And then the kids will come back and they'll be like, oh my God, we had pie today, and oh, we had chocolate cake today. And I was like, oh God, I'm missing out on all this pies and desserts and cakes. And I've asked Mama, can I go? And no, you can't go. So I asked her why, and she said, well, people go to church, they pray to God on Sunday. Then the other 6 days, they're doing everything that the Bible says not to do. They're cheating on their spouses, they're stealing things, they're lying, they're committing every manner of sin. And she said, because like I said, she's all about keeping her word. So she was like, I'm not going there because I'll be in a den of hypocrites. That's the way she felt. So we never went to church. So that was what my childhood looked like.
Gotcha.
And I was a smart kid. I was very bookwormy, book smart, always reading.
Yeah. All right. So, how would you help somebody that says they have a problem? Let's say they have a relationship problem and they come to you. What would you do to help that person?
So if someone comes to me and they have a relationship problem, it really depends. I think the worst that I ever felt with a relationship issue was it wasn't even the lady came to me with a relationship problem. She actually came to me because she had severe hypertension and nothing was getting it done. And she also had an enlarged heart. And she comes there, and I know she was coming for her blood pressure issue. And the first words out of my mouth was, you need to divorce your husband. And it came out so fast
Yeah.
that I couldn't roll the words back in. But then I found out that she was married to this man. They were married 25 years. He never worked a single day in the 25 years they were married.
Oh, wow.
She had to carry everything. So it's like she had a child. She had a child from a previous marriage, but it's like she had a child.
Wow.
And he never did anything, but he was a nice guy. Everybody liked him. He was a nice guy. He was a helpful guy, but he never worked a day in his life. So all that pressure of her having bad health and being upset in this marriage for so long. And then I said, you have to divorce her husband. She was actually divorced in 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Her health got better. And the nice guy turned into a really mean guy when he found out the gravy train was ending. So, that's why I said so. But that's not helping a relationship. It just depends. Like I said,
Okay,
it depends
yes,
on what's
yes, I
going on.
understand.
It was
So-
impacting her health, this relationship, and she needed to get out of it because she could probably had a stroke and died
Yeah.
if it kept going that way. So if someone is in a relationship, say they want to save the relationship, it needs to find out why they're in the relationship and what the problem is that's blocking them in this relationship. So I normally look and see, is this, it might not be the person that they're, sometimes it might not be the person you're supposed to be with.
Yeah.
That could be an issue, but they're trying, beyond everything to hold on. Or if it is the person that they're with, then they need to see, well, it normally breaks down to communication. In most relationships, it breaks down to a block in communication, and the communication block usually comes because they have different sets of values.
Okay. Okay.
And they can't communicate past those values. Sometimes people don't even know what their values are.
Yeah.
It's just they've been taught that as a kid, so they figure, I'm this way, you should be that way too.
Okay.
And if you're not that way, there's a problem.
I
So
see.
a lot of times it's that, and they can't even articulate that. So that's how the intuition helps, that they get to see that, we need to have different communication styles. We have different values. It could be different values around money, different values around raising the kids, different, so they need to come together on that. So I find most relationships that if people are to stay together, that's it. A lot of times, by the time the person comes to me for a relationship issue, unfortunately, they don't need to be in that relationship no more.
Okay.
But
So,
I've
yeah.
had people get into relationships after
Okay.
they come to me.
Yeah. So, what I'm trying to find out is with your creation system, right? So you have a system that's called creation.
Yes.
So when you do that creation process or creation thing, even though the person couldn't find a solution somewhere else, with your creation thing, they can find a solution.
Yeah, they find the solution because what creation does is first, it works on finding out where the person is blocked. So it's clearing it. Like say, for instance, you decide you're going to renovate this room. The first thing you got to do is you got to clear the room. You got to get
Okay.
everything out of the room first. You may even bring everything down to the studs, but you got to clear it out first. You can't renovate with the stuff still there.
Okay.
So that's the first process in creation, finding out where these things that no longer is useful in this person's life.
Okay. Okay.
Because there were things that might have been useful at one point in their life is no longer useful anymore.
Yeah.
It's just creating issues in their life. So finding out those things intuitively and clearing them out. Because when I look at a person, I'm looking at them, their mind, their body, their soul, their environment, their relationships, their lineage, their hereditary, their genetics. I'm looking at all these aspects of a person. So for me to find out, it'll take me too long if I have to go one by one. So the intuition kind of just gets you, it's this thing over there. It's this spot right behind the liver that's due to more the emotional state than it is something physical going on with the liver.
So it tells you exactly where the problem is.
Intuition is very, very exact.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's fast. Most of the systems that we're using is very old systems, and they're like dial-up systems. They take long, but if we do everything else fast, we are taught that healing takes forever. It's not that healing takes forever. We're just applying the wrong treatment to it.
I would say, what if somebody asks you, is this witchcraft? Because I'm sorry to ask that, because I believe somebody is going to have that question.
Yeah. Well, I don't do spells. I think witchcraft, you know, because
Okay.
I had to like things. I'm not invoking anything, and I'm not casting a spell or doing, you know, because I don't really know much about witchcraft, to be
Yeah,
honest with
okay.
you. I probably have a very minute knowledge, like, you know, maybe something had come across my feed and I go like, oh, that's what that is? Okay. You know, but I don't really have an interest, so I can't really speak to witchcraft itself.
Okay.
But then if you look at, like in the Bible, they say that when Christ says, look at these things that I do and you could do even greater. Look at the things that Christ did. Out of that context, would we think that's witchcraft?
No,
Why not?
because he's a supreme being.
But
He can.
we put him in that context. But if you take it out of that context and you just looked at the things that he did, you know, I'm casting out demons, you know, I'm, you know, touching people and they're healing or they're
Yeah.
falling out. Would we, if we didn't say he was a supreme being, what would we place it as? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Well,
Out of the, if we take it out of the context, we're just saying, let's just take it out of the context for a moment, we would say, oh, that looks like that. The only reason why it looks like that is because, you know, it depends on whoever conquered wrote the history and wrote the rules. So
Okay.
then when you start looking at it from that context, if I come and I conquer your land, and whatever you were believing in and doing, I tell you now, no, I'm in charge now. That's bad. Don't do that. No, you got to do it my way now.
okay.
So there's a lot of that that's going on because, you know, you can't just take it in isolation. You got to look at it in context, and you also got to look at it from the history of it and the origin. One of the things that I've learned working in the lab and doing research, you always got to take things back to the origin of it.
Okay.
And so when you go back to the origin of something, then you say, oh, there's more to it than just that, if you're just given a piece of it. So when you look at it, if like I said, when I was in my early 20s, I started going to churches and having experiences and reading about what these different belief systems was. And I came to the conclusion there's one God. He's the source of everything. Everything I see is under the umbrella of God. I'm not worried about all the other stuff. As
Okay.
long as I knew that, you know, morally, I wasn't doing anything evil. I wasn't doing something bad to someone else, because that has clues. So, you know, like people ask me about demons and stuff, and I said, well, the whole context and the whole concept of a demon is that it's a spiritual, it's an unnatural, supernatural entity that does you harm. So if you're doing harm, then yes. Then that
Okay,
I would,
okay.
you know, but if it's witchcraft, what we may say witchcraft is the lady that makes the teas and the herbs and all of those things and know how to heal your body. She might be labeled a witch in certain communities. But what is she doing? She's just knows how to go in the
Yeah.
garden, get herbs and different things, mix it up and give you that to drink and heal you. But in certain contexts, she'd be called a witch.
Gotcha.
Why? But she's not doing anything to harm anybody.
Okay.
So then, you know, we what they call that word, conflate things. And we look at something like that we may not understand. How's she able to do that? How did she know which herbs to use? How did she know? How did George Washington Carver know what plants to do and what to do with the plants?
Yeah.
We may look at that and look at that context and say, oh, that's witchcraft, where it was just given a derogatory term based on who the conqueror was and what their beliefs were.
Gotcha. Well, okay. Now, you work with businesses, companies, and individuals. What is the process for a company to start working with you?
Okay, so for a company to start working with me, in all my years of practice, I've never advertised. Everything has always been word of mouth and referrals.
Okay.
So how I started working with most companies, because I never really seeked out companies. I had patients that would come to see me. They would get great results. They'll refer their friends and family. And I had patients that, you know, I would talk to them about different things that were going on in their life. And they'll say, you know what, my boss is having this issue. Could you come and see my boss? So I'll be called into the company to take a look and see what's happening.
Yeah.
They may need a change of staff. Maybe they've outgrown the staff and the staff is no longer useful, so they may have that. Or they're going after a major contract and they want to find out what's holding up that contract and that money. So they'll ask me to look at it. So when I first started working with companies, my first thing was like, oh, if I think of a company as a person, then I would go, oh, okay, someone could have a problem with the nervous system. Someone could have a problem with the heart. Somebody could have a problem with the legs. So I started looking at as a company as the body. So then if like I was picking up, oh, it's the brain and the nervous system of the company, and I know, oh, it's a CEO problem. It's a upper management and thinking problem. Oh, if they have like a heart problem, then that might be how the money is flowing in the company. There's no circulation of, so I started looking at a company from that context, and then it was easy for me to work with the company because I just kind of superimpose it on a system that I already understood.
Okay. So do you also use intuition to see what's going on inside of the company, or?
Yes. I remember one CEO, he brought me in. He brought me in before all the workers came there. So we got there like 6:30 in the morning to this company. And he brought me in the conference room, and I sat in the chair, and I just looked around the conference room, and I said, okay, the person that sits in that chair, this is how they are, and this is what they do. And he looked at me like, whoa, and he took notes. And then I said, then this other person over there, they always like to sit in this spot. They do this. And then he was like, he looked at the person and like, she knows what she's talking about, because I described all the people there.
Without knowing the people, and you just come in and
because the person that brought me in wanted to, when I came in that morning, he wanted to tell me I said, please don't tell me anything, because that would be confusing for me, because then I'll be wondering, was that what he just told me, or is that what I'm receiving? So after that, and the funniest thing with the CEO, he had a plane, he had a boat, his company was doing very well. And then I told him, after we went over all the problems he was having in his company, I said, oh, your boat, I see your boat taking on water. I said, I don't think a boat's supposed to take on water, and then he says, no, my boat is in tip-top shape, and there's nothing wrong with my boat, and he gave me the 5 degree about how great his boat was. I was like, look, I don't know a darn thing about boats. I've only been a boat maybe twice in my life, so you're probably right. You know more about boats than I do, but there's a problem with your boat. That's all I could tell you. There's something with one of the engines. And then he went out that weekend with his boat and had to be towed in, because had a problem with the engine, and so he called me back in, like, she needs to do some more work.
How you get to say these things? That's the process. How do you hear a voice talking to you, or
there's no voice talking to me? It's just that I start to receive. It's like I'm listening.
Okay.
Like say you're listening to the radio or something, or when you're like walking. Okay, this is what happened to a lot of people when they're walking. All of a sudden you start listening to yourself, and you start like things you weren't even thinking about, it just coming to you. It comes more like that.
Wow, that's impressive. I've never met somebody like this. I don't know if I've met someone, but we've never had this type of conversation.
I think there's need to have more of this conversation, because there's more people like me, but they've been hiding under the shadow because they're afraid of being ostracized. Me, I've just never cared. I was an only child. I grew up by myself. I do well by myself. I'm like one of those people like me, don't like me. I've always been that person, so it never bothered me to just be myself. And you got to go back to the source of where did those definitions come from.
Okay. Wow.
Because if there are people if you think about medicine as a whole, before there were lab tests and x-rays and all the different types of imaging and all the things that we do today, what did people do? Think thousands of years ago, what did people do? They went to someone like me that could tune into their body and tell them that was going, and that was across the world. Every single culture, they call them a shaman or the medicine man or woman and all of this. Every single culture has had that. Modern medicine has only been around for like 150 years.
Wow.
So what were people doing prior to that? They had people like me that could sit down and say, okay, that's what's wrong with you. Take this herb. This is what's wrong with you. You need to stretch and do some exercise. You need to change your food. They had people like me that was in the village that knew how to do, that had these specific skill sets. So
I have
I'm
more
not
questions.
anything unusual.
I have more
I've been
questions.
around forever.
I know, but I believe to the people who will be watching the video, they will have more questions too. Well, we
I'm
would
willing to
spend the
answer
whole
them.
day. You know, we've been here for more over 45 minutes already.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do, I'll let the people ask questions,
Yes.
and then the questions they have, I will bring you back.
Okay. And
I'll
I
bring
would
you back
love
so
to answer
that-
their questions.
Yes.
Because I really think that this is something that has been so hidden and so suppressed
Mm-hmm.
in our society and around the world. And have big, you know, and I always joke with people. I said, you know, the person that's like the musician, like a Mozart or a Michael Jackson, that could hear the songs in their head and able to
Yeah.
express them, or the writer or the inventor, they're okay. People like me is that I tell the truth, because let's say, for instance, a politician, it could be a king, emperor, pharaoh, whatever, is standing up there and he's just spewing out a bunch of stuff that's not right.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person that's like, no, it's not that, it's actually this. So I'm a threat.
I see.
So
Okay,
I would get a
okay.
bad rap. And then when people went into countries, you know, like you had a war and you conquered a country, the first person they would kill is all the priests and all the people like myself. They had to get rid of us.
Wow.
Yeah. So then the bad name was like, oh no, they were bad. They worked with the devil. They're witches. It was just history. If you read history, you could see it very plainly in front of you.
Well, as I said, that's amazing. A lot of information, things that I've never heard before. So I will. Yes, that's amazing. How can somebody reach you? That's the
Okay.
first thing I'll say.
You could reach me on my Instagram. It's Azula, Azula Creation, no S, just Creation, one word. On IG, also on Facebook. You could also reach me at Azula Creation on Facebook also.
Okay.
And under my name, Akiyaa Azula, Akyiaa Azula, Azula. I'm also on YouTube, and on my regular Facebook page, it would be under Akiyaa Azula also.
All right. So we have to wrap this up because we know you don't have time. What is the last piece of information you could give to the audience?
Okay. The last piece of information I want to give to everybody: you all have a purpose. You all have a special gift. This is why you're here. It's for your health as well as your wealth, in order to utilize that gift, because that's why you're here, and that has been put in you for you to help serve this world. And the world needs you, and it needs you, and it needs the gifts that you bring. So that's my last thing, and that's why I'm passionate about the work that I'm doing, is because it helps people to bring that out of themselves and give them the courage to move forward with it, no matter how strange their gifts are, like mine.
All right. Well, I know some people are going to hate you. Some people are going to love you. If you're ready for the
okay.
smoke, you come back.
Muy caliente, bring that fire. I am good. I am good.
All right, Akiyaa. So it was a pleasure having you here on the show today. I believe you'll be back again. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching the show. If you have questions, please put them in the comment, and then we'll be sure to answer the questions that you have. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. See you again.